Hi, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. What a wonderful start to match day 12 of the Premier League did we have, and what a climax was that on Saturday ahead of Super Sunday action. Robert Kesakos is my name. If you're new, do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share, and so that we can continue to grow. Anyways, the day kicked off with Chelsea beating up against Leicester City by 2 goals to 1. Never mind that our prediction was a 3-1 victory for the Blues. I thought they would win this particular match, and they were quite impressive, although Leicester City were culpable for missing certain key chances that could have easily earned them a point in that particular one, but they needed a late penalty to manage the only consolation of the game, because Nicholas Jackson and Enzo Fernandez had been on target for the Blues there, as they stay in pace with the title chasing, teams there in Liverpool, Man City, and probably Arsenal, as we will see what that result meant on the Premier League table. And after that, Arsenal blew away Nottingham Forest in a 3-0 victory. Quite surprising for me particularly, especially the manner in which Arsenal dominated that ball. Not that it was not to be expected, but given Nottingham Forest's recent form, you had hoped that they would give Arsenal much more trouble than they actually managed to give them on the day. David Raya was largely a rested man. Yes, he had a couple of times he had to defend for himself when he came up front to sweep up the ball, but largely he was not disturbed on the day. So it was Bukayo Saka there on target, Martin Odegaard providing the assist with a very cheeky pass there in between the defenders. So he did open the scoring. And in the second half substitute, that is Thomas Partey, who had replaced Jorginho being withdrawn because he had a yellow card. I think Mikel Arteta was getting cautious, because he did mention some time back that he was tired of his team, having to play out games when they are down to 10 men. It causes his players to use a lot of energy. So 6 minutes into his playing time on the turf, and Thomas Partey came up with a stunner and struck that ball really swiftly into the back of the net to make it 2-0 there for the Gunners. It's that kind of game that Bukayo Saka, I thought, dominated. I thought Leandro Trossard had a good game. I thought Martin Odegaard was quite impressive. He gave Arsenal much more going forward, practically what they've lacked during his absence. Mikel Moreno seemed to gel well with that midfield of Martin Odegaard, but that was all in the absence of Declan Rice, who had been relegated to the bench. It was quite surprising for me that Jorginho had started ahead of Thomas Partey, but then I also remembered that Arsenal do have a fixture on Tuesday against Sporting Lisbon in the UEFA Champions League, a Sporting Lisbon side that in their last outing beat up against Manchester City by 4 goals to 1. So there was that to bear in mind. But anyways, very impressive game there. Then another second half substitute in Ethan Nwaneri, who came on for Martin Odegaard, and then combining with another substitute in Raheem Sterling, who had come on for Bukayo Saka. I think those two combined for Ethan Nwaneri, the 17-year-old, to score his first Premier League goal for the Gunners. He becomes the second youngest Arsenal goal scorer in the Premier League after Cesc Fabregas at the age of 17, and the number of days there that are counted in. So, but he was a very impressive cameo for the youngster, because prior to scoring that third goal, he had a sweet attempt that had gone wide of the mark on the day. So I thought he was quite impressive. Mikel Arteta, speaking about him, he said they do need to build him brick by brick, one step at a time, and ease him and manage his playing time. While Arsenal fans on the other side, I'm sure, given that goal, given that little cameo that was quite very impressive, will be clamoring, will be calling for more playing time for the youngster. Yes, there's a time he was given a bit of more playing time. That was in the 1-0 defeat to Newcastle, but the team just didn't play well on that day, so you cannot blame him. But we expect to see him a little more, because they do have that engagement, I think, against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup that will be coming in the very near future. And then of course, Nottingham Forest thought they had scored a consolation on the other side, but it turned out to be an offside goal. Very impressive result for Arsenal. I think they will be really delighted in the kind of performance they gave Julian Timber, quite impressive. He did miss a couple of chances. Leandro Trossard forced the goalkeeper into a save just as much as Martin Odegaard had done in the same game. Arguably, Arsenal, it's a game that Arsenal could have won by 5-0 or even more. And then, of course, I thought Ricardo Carafiori was another key player to mention. Very, very impressive performance again. Although he was withdrawn, I think, for Zinchenko very early on. I think it is going to be very crucial how Mikel Arteta manages Ricardo Carafiori and Julian Timber's playing time, because those are his number one starters. In the absence of Ben White, who we know now that he is not going to be out for just a couple of weeks following that knee surgery. Mikel Arteta said he will be out for a few months. So that means he will have to manage those two really well. Because at the same time, Takahiro Tomiyasu did suffer a setback, so he will be absent in the squad for we do not know how long. He did say it will be a few weeks, and it is reported that Arsenal are planning to send him away from London Colony to go and try his rehabilitation from a different environment, because he suffered setback after setback. Anyways, let's move on from that result. In the other surprising result for me for the weekend was Wolves beating up against Fulham by 4-1 there. Yet Fulham did find themselves in the lead, I think, through Alex Iwobi, and then that boy, Matthias Cunha, very, very impressive 10, inspiring Wolves, to a comeback, and then they did win that game by 4-1. That was very, very impressive. Crystal Palace thought they could manage their second victory of the season against Aston Villa, but it was never to be, and the two sides did settle for a 2-2 draw in that particular fixture. Elsewhere, Brighton beat up against Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium by 2-1. Brighton ending that game with the manless after I think Carlos Baleba was given a red card in that particular fixture, but that consolation came a little too late with 3 minutes to stoppage time for them to pick a point out of that game. João Pedro scoring one and providing an impressive assist, I think, for Kaoru Mitoma, who scored the second. Very, very impressive game there. And then Everton, in not a surprising way, did share the spoils in a goalless draw with Brentford. Very good fixture there. And then in the late kickoff of the day, the biggest match of the weekend, arguably for me, was between Tottenham when they paid Manchester City a visit. We all know that we did come in this particular fixture when Manchester City didn't have form on their side, having lost 4 consecutive games across all competitions, where they were condemned to their third defeat in the Premier League in a row after that 4-0 thumping from Tottenham Hotspurs. As pretty expected, Manchester City did dominate their affairs quite early on in the game. They looked the more plausible team to score, brought Erling Haaland having an early attempt there at goal, forcing Vicario into a save and all that, but it did not count for anything, because on the other side, Dejan Kulusevski was providing a sublime ball for James Maddison to make it 1-0. And just minutes later, it was James Maddison again who scored to make it 2-0. So it was a burst for the Englishman. And the usual suspect, the soldier in Captain Son Heung-min, was also on target there to put another nail into Manchester City when he scored to make it 3-0. As if that wasn't enough, Brennan Johnson had to put the dagger, probably the last nail in Manchester City's coffin, when he completed that 4-0 drubbing for Tottenham against Manchester City. If there's any team that gives Pep Guardiola trouble in this Premier League era, it is Tottenham. Last season, we did see them share the spoils in a 3-3 draw. We had spoken about that encounter. Yes, my prediction had been Manchester City to rise up from their ruins and make this one by 2-1. But I also did mention that I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham beat up against Man City, because on a given day, they can just come up with a very surprising result. And it was really surprising for me personally. Man City did apply themselves well, but defensively, they were lacking. They left themselves open, I thought, far too often, especially on the flanks, that Tottenham Hotspurs exploited those spaces and had, were quite clinical on the day on target. So 3 points, impressive result, beating Man City, beating the reigning champions. I think that was a very good message for Ange Postecoglou to send to the Tottenham fans and all those that may be calling for his sacking in the wake of some poor results there in days gone by. But anyway, that was very impressive. Those were the results from the Premier League. Thought everything was very impressive. Action does continue today on Super Sunday when Liverpool visit Southampton. That's at 5 p.m. East African time. While in the late kickoff at 7:30 p.m., Manchester United under new manager Ruben Amorim will make the trip to Ipswich Town. Remember, Ipswich Town did beat up against Tottenham Hotspurs by 2-1 in their last Premier League outing. And then, of course, the other fixture will come on Monday. That is on Monday Night Football when Newcastle entertain West Ham United. I think that game will be kicking off at 11 p.m. East African time. Do let me know what your thoughts are on those particular results and what was your moment of the weekend so far. What you thought was surprising for you anyway. But just a quick look at the table after those results. Here is how the top 10 looks like after Saturday's results. Of course, Liverpool maintained the lead while Manchester City, despite that loss, are still second with 23 points. Liverpool at 28 points. Chelsea do come in third place and Arsenal in fourth place, respectively. Both teams at 22 points. There, Brighton in fifth place at 22 points. All teams have played 12 games, but Liverpool, who have played 11 games. And in sixth place is the rising Tottenham Hotspurs with 19 points. Nottingham Forest there still seventh with 19 points. Aston Villa with 19 points in eighth place, while Newcastle will have a chance to move high up on that table should they beat up against West Ham United, as I expect them to do on Monday Night Football. But it is the Premier League. It is not immune to surprising results. And then in 10th place are Fulham, who are, by the way, beaten by 4-1 by Wolverhampton Wanderers. That result there for Wolverhampton Wanderers lifted them to 9 points, and they are 17th on the Premier League draw, while Crystal Palace linger in the relegation zone after that draw, just as much as Ipswich Town and Southampton, who I think Liverpool will beat today as well. So another win in waiting for Liverpool, another win I think for Manchester United in waiting. Do let me know what your thoughts are. Do not forget to comment, share, and click that subscription button so that we can continue to go. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Stay blessed.